Hey guys, you're listening to Drinks with Lisa, brought to you by Fair Foodie. It's a real and raw discussion with Australian farmers, producers and small business owners. I've been lucky to have met with hundreds of these hardworking Aussies recently, and it's time to share their incredible journeys, challenges and achievements. My goal is to uncover ways in which we can become more mindful consumers and make an impact on the Australian economy, environment and its people. I invite you to grab a drink, sit back and enjoy as I introduce you to some very inspiring guests. Cheers! Today my guest is Gina Di Brita, founder and owner of Numero Uno coffee roasters. Gina comes from an Italian family where good food and fresh produce is an important part of life. She spent many years owning and operating a multi-award winning tobacco farm in far north Queensland. In 2003, Gina established Numero Uno and soon after began commencing roasting her own coffee beans. Here with me today is multi-award winning Coffee Woman of the Year, Gina. Thank you for joining us.
Hi Lisa, thanks for having me.
I'm really inspired by you, Gina. We've only met a few weeks ago, but already having a look at all the awards, you're a barista, what is it?
WBC.
World Barista Judge.
Yeah.
You're on the panel of the International Women's Coffee Alliance. In fact, you helped form the Coffee Alliance and you were appointed as a treasurer.
No, I'm now president.
You're now the president. Things change quickly with Gina.
Yeah, yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Tell me, I can't even list all the titles and awards you have.
Yeah, I have to change that. I think it's still on the website as treasurer.
It is. So tell me, how did you get here?
Oh, wow. Whew. Okay, it goes back, my journey goes back sitting in a cafe. I don't even know why I'm going back this far, but
Go back as far as you.
It was just such a memorable moment. I was sitting in a cafe, I was in between jobs. I'd just come back to Melbourne, my hometown, and I wasn't really happy with what I was doing at the time. It was a great, paying role, but wasn't very fulfilling. I didn't feel it was a very, ethical and sustainable type of a organisation that I was working for, and my heart was yearning for something just, a little bit deeper and more meaningful. And I guess I call myself a very people-orientated person, and I just wanted to be, more at the forefront with, working with people. So I was sitting in a cafe one day, and I picked up the newspaper back then to look at the job advertisement section, and it was the big Melbourne Age, I remember, and I was in a quaint little cafe, and was just going through the list of jobs just to get ideas, and I saw this ad. It was very simple. It only had 3 words in it. A marketing guru wanted, and for some reason I was just drawn to this particular ad. And I thought, oh wow, something in my heart said, oh, that's me. I'm going to get this job.
Wow.
Something in my heart said, yep, that's me.
Yeah.
And little did I know, so I rang and obviously posted my resume. The director said, yep, come in for an interview. And little did I know it was for a boutique coffee roasting company in Melbourne. And 3 interviews later, I was appointed as marketing and sales. And that was really the beginning of my journey. I thought, oh wow, I love this. I love I love interacting with people. Sure. I did a lot of sales over the phone, funnily enough. Mm-hmm. And actually, I didn't know anything about coffee, but for some reason, I was able to listen to the needs of what they were. And this is going back 19 years ago, when coffee was still, it hadn't evolved like it has today. Sure. There was no such thing as specialty back then. So yeah, that's where it all began. And eventually I met a guy through the same company that was working up here. And I actually moved my whole life, my 3 daughters and my whole life, and moved to Sydney and to be with him. And he was actually the agent for the coffee company I was working for in Melbourne. And yeah, so next minute I'm packing up my life in Melbourne, and I moved to Sydney, and we took the company that I was working for. I took it at a, sort of to the next level. Once I got together with this guy, I mean, he was my partner in life. He became my partner in life and in business. And we took it to the next level. Until one day I woke up literally out of bed. He was beside me, and I said, let's start our own coffee company, because there was things that I wasn't happy with. It wasn't going to go anywhere. And he literally turned around and said, are you crazy? And I said, no, we can do this. Yeah. I still didn't know much about coffee. And I'd only been working about a year and a half with this company. So, but what I knew was that there was a gap in the Sydney market for a more personalised service and a more boutique, coffee company. And so that's where my journey began.
Wow. And scoot forward, what is it? Did you say 18 years?
It's been 18 years. Yeah, 18 very, some up and down moments. Lots of up and down moments.
What have been some of the big challenges along the way?
I guess, well, when my ex and I split early on in the piece, I actually was ready to walk away, but in the end, I happened to take over the business. So I guess some of the challenges on the way were, I'm just trying to think what some of the challenges were. I forgot about my challenges.
Oh, well, that's good. They're long gone.
There's been lots of challenges. I guess the industry has evolved over 18 years.
Yeah, it has.
I'm thinking now, yes, particularly when it came to me being a woman in business, I didn't realise, because the stereotypical type of industry that I was in, and I soon learnt that it was a very male dominated industry, and I'd go out. Just to give you an example, I'd go out and see customers, and I'd be looked up and down, and I'd be asked, well, who are you repping for, and what's a woman like you doing in this industry, and some pretty crazy stuff. So I guess that's been one of the challenges, not really being accepted as a person in business. This was in the beginning, and seen as someone a bit inferior and a bit, it was an interesting time for me. So that was probably a challenge in the beginning, and. But I'd walk away from these encounters a lot more stronger, a lot more determined, particularly when my ex and I split early on in the piece and I took over the company. Yeah. I would walk away from certain encounters just, with more determination and more that will to, no, I'm going to keep going, and I know what I'm doing, and I know I can do this. And I don't know, maybe it was to prove them wrong. I'm not really sure, but it was just something in me that I wanted to do, and I loved doing what I was doing, and I just wanted to keep getting better at it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Well, you've certainly got drive. We can see that through everything you've achieved, all your successes. What have been some of those high moments then?
I think the highest moment I had was, and it was my first encounter visiting some coffee farms in Colombia, and they were actually run by women coffee growers, and that was my highest moment, because I realised there and then that I was in the right industry. And it was really funny because I couldn't speak Spanish and they couldn't speak English, but women, when they get together, it's this language that we have instantly. I don't know, I think you can understand it.
Yeah,
and we just bonded. Yeah, we just instantly bonded. And they had this banner waiting for me, "Welcome Gina from Sydney, Australia."
Oh, lovely.
And it was like, and at the time I had my roaster, who was also Colombian, and he's an amazing person. He's now moved to South Korea. But he was the one that encouraged me to go on this trip, and he said, let's go to Colombia. I know a lot of people, and I said, well, let's do something different. Let's find women in coffee. But little did I know that there was women at the helm of their coffee business, which was these women own their own farms. So that was one of my highest moments. And I guess, you know, I've had some amazing highs. I really have to say that. I've had more highs than challenges. Another one was actually winning the Australian Coffee Woman of the Year. That was a complete shock to me. A friend of mine in the industry had rung me the day before, and he said, you know, I've put you up for, and I said, what?
Oh, wow.
I didn't know.
Oh, how lovely.
And yeah, it was such a beautiful surprise. It was almost like a completion of everything that I had done. You know, like, I'm not someone that waits around for an award or even to be recognised, but it was a really beautiful moment, because it really did make me feel that, oh wow, because I've contributed a lot to the industry, and I've volunteered a lot of my time. So yeah, getting that award was an incredible high. Never in my wildest dream did I ever think I'd, you know, receive something like that. And it was a fairly new award. It was there was two predecessors, you know, prior to me winning the award. So, and they were amazing women. They are amazing women in coffee. And other highlights, like working with the coffee farmers in Papua New Guinea, working with smallholder, also being invited to be part of the specialty coffee judging panel for the Timor-Leste coffee competition that they run every year now. So that was, all those have been highlights in my journey in coffee.
That's fantastic, because you do give a lot back to these coffee growing communities, don't you?
Yeah.
And I understand that there's, you know, you're very passionate about sustainable and ethical farming. Can you tell me what it is that your Numero Uno is contributing to those communities?
It's really interesting, because I've always, I've always been drawn to, after visiting my very first farm in Colombia, I've always been drawn to the way, so the people of the land, there's something really special and unique about people that work their land. And I'm an farmer. Yeah. So that was the other thing I immediately sort of connected with, because, you know, I was an ex-farmer. I connected with these farmers, and I know the hard work that you know, that they do to produce a crop. So, you know, from my very first visit to my very first farm, I promised that I would, I don't know, I had this certain respect suddenly for what I was doing and for the product. And of course the product without the people is, it's not, you know, it doesn't mean anything. Yeah. But when you put faces and you put the story behind the product, for me that's, you know, that's that has meaning. So I've always been drawn to sourcing ethical and sustainable coffees, and working with particularly now with Papua New Guinea, and visiting. I've been to East Timor, or Timor-Leste as it's known now. Yeah. I've been to Timor-Leste now 4 times. Sorry, wow. Judging the coffees, and every year it just gets better and better. And you asked the question. Sorry, what was the question again, Lisa? I went on a tangent there.
What is Numero Uno doing for these communities?
Yeah. Okay. So by, you know, going back and visiting these farms and working and judging these coffees, particularly like Timor-Leste, when you're judging these coffees, you're actually giving them feedback. Yeah. And because these farmers don't even know what happens to their coffee once it leaves their farm. Sure. So having someone like me that's at the other end, or the consumer end, they want to know more about what it is that I'm looking for in a coffee, what do we do with this coffee.
Yeah.
And Timor-Leste is an incredible country. It's very agile compared to Papua New Guinea, Papua New Guinea is gorgeous as well, and their production of coffee is a lot more. It's a lot. Yeah, the production of coffee in Papua New Guinea is far more greater than Timor-Leste. But in Timor-Leste, the young people are very hungry for knowledge, and they're looking to, the younger generation who are going back to their family farms are looking to raise their standard and raise their quality of not just the coffees, but to raise their standard of living. So someone like me that comes along, or any of the international judges that visit and spend time with them, we're giving us our feedback. We're encouraging them to keep going. And the feedback is really, really important.
Yeah, sure.
Because you asked the question of cupping before we started the interview.
Yeah.
And cupping is really, I love it. It's something that I just love doing in my business, because it gives me an idea of, exactly what's going on back in that particular region. And it tells me also about the soil. It will when you cup a coffee, it can tell you everything about the coffee. So this
similar to wine tasting.
It's very similar to It's very similar to wine tasting, but there's over 2,000 flavour descriptors in coffee, as opposed to, correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone knows, 800 in wine.
Wow. Yeah,
so
right.
Coffee, the product of coffee is a lot more complex.
Yeah.
And it's just an incredible product to work with. It really is, because you're dealing with all different micro-regions and microclimates and different soils, and now the different processing methods, that are just incredible. You can manipulate, there's so many different processing methods now that if you understand how to manipulate, the coffee while it's processing, you can get flavours of an Ethiopian in a cup. So, and an Ethiopian is very fruity. And there's certain processing methods where you apply a different, there's different methods where you apply to a coffee, say in Timor-Leste or Papua New Guinea or Colombia, you can get the same sort of flavour notes as a very high quality of, as I said, Ethiopia or Panama. So there's some interesting things going on at the moment in coffee. Really interesting.
Amazing. I should also mention we are drinking one of your coffees today. Tell me about this blend.
So this is the Picasso Blend. And the Picasso Blend was my very, very first blend that
Very nice.
that I kicked off Numero Uno coffee with. It was It was funny because trying to come up with the name for the blend, I was driving around Sydney one day, and Pablo Picasso's artwork was being held at the Contemporary.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember
Art
now.
Museum.
One of the museums here, and I was driving around, and whenever they've got something that they're promoting at the museum, they've got flags hanging down, and I thought, oh, Picasso, a work of art.
Yeah, it is.
Right at that moment. So I chose Picasso, and I've carried it on since then, from 18 years ago till now.
Wow.
It has changed a bit. It has developed. It's evolved. But it's probably it's still one of my biggest selling blends out of all my blends.
It's really beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
And you supply your coffees to a lot of cafes,
restaurants, corporates. I'm getting a lot more. I'm now, the end user, the home user is that's starting to increase, which is really good. Obviously with more people working from home. Yeah.
And I was surprised when we were working with you to set up your profile on Fair Foodie. I noticed you have 7 or 8 different grinds available for all of your types of coffee.
Yes.
That's a lot of grinds that I didn't know existed, but people are actually using them in their homes, or is it mainly restaurants?
Well, when you refer to grinds, you're talking about different brew methods. So you've got, obviously your espresso style, that's always been around. Then you've got all your different filter types of coffees, from V60 pour over to, say, using a Mocha Master, to, say, using an AeroPress. There's all these, there's just so many things out there now.
Something for every coffee snob out there.
Yeah,
okay.
And for every occasion. And you can take a lot of these camping. You don't need electricity.
Yeah, right.
There's some amazing brew methods and brewing tools out there, and they just keep coming on the market. They just keep reinventing. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. And I understand you also assist other small business owners in starting up their own cafes. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the main. I guess that's the main or the core of my business. And I built Numero Uno on that model. It's literally working with new startup cafes from the very, very beginning to their opening, and then you keep, and then it's all ongoing. There's all ongoing support. There's ongoing training, and I've got a lot of customers that have been with me for 14, 15, 16 years, and they've gone on to open their third, fourth cafe. So it's been a great, in that respect. I've got customers that have just stayed with me, and because this industry is, it can be very fickle, and the lifespan of any new startup cafe is about 18 months to 2 years.
Yeah, right.
So there's a lot of, I do sit down with a new, a person coming into the industry. I do sit down with them at length, and I do go through a series of questions just to see and establish where they're at, where do they really want to go, because sometimes we're not going to be a fit, and I can see warning signs from the very beginning. So yeah, we do have this 7-step process of opening and establishing and opening up a successful cafe.
Right, because it takes a lot of resilience, I imagine.
It takes a lot of, it's just opening and operating a cafe is not what people think it is. A lot of people go into it thinking, oh, I've always wanted to own a cafe. I just want to have friends. I want to, sit around and talk to people, and it's another business.
Yeah, sure.
And you're on your feet all day. You've got to smile no matter what. You've got to be, courteous and hospitable, because we are in the hospitality industry.
7 days a week. No
7
doubt.
days a week.
Yeah.
Some are 7 days a week. So, I do give people sort of a bit of a, I let them know, is this really what you want to do? And which ones are going to survive. You just know. And a lot of them are husband and wife couples. I'm just thinking of a few now, and they've evolved over time, and the best ones will always keep evolving, and they'll keep introducing new things. I
think it's great that you're giving them the chance to kind of do that due diligence and be really realistic about expectations and giving them that honest approach of the industry, which is really important, because even now at this really difficult time, we're in a pandemic, a lot of restaurants and other small businesses are really struggling. So
yes,
this is probably a lot more pressure than they've ever had to deal with.
It's
in the
true.
past.
It's true.
So they're
yes.
having to adapt to the environment, and obviously people are still drinking coffee, but are you seeing more people drinking coffee at home than in the, people ordering more for personal use?
It's really interesting because when COVID was first announced, the first few weeks, my sales dropped so badly.
Yeah,
and it's because all my customers had, they all panicked as well, they all closed. But this is the amazing thing that's happened with my customers and myself. We've built this incredible relationship over time. And I remember, the day that they announced that, we were going into lockdown, I rang every one of my customers, literally rang every one of my customers. Wow. And they all said to me, Gina, don't worry, we'll get through this together. They were giving me encouragement for once, because normally I'm giving them encouragement. But it was just so nice. And so for me, this business has been built on relationships and that trust. And they've seen me constantly evolve and constantly doing the right thing, not just for the product but for them as well, because I've always got my customer in mind whenever I do something, whenever I change something, because you can't just it's not, this business isn't just about me. It's about everybody involved. It's about all these stakeholders, and that's why I think I'm still here.
Doing something right.
I believe I've done a lot of right things.
Yeah.
Yes, I've made a lot of mistakes, and I will admit that. Never mistakes that, that were never calculated, because no matter how much you calculate a risk, there's always something. So, but those mistakes, those so-called mistakes, have made me actually wiser, stronger, and it's allowed me to actually know the human spirit a lot more as well. It really does sort out a lot of people for you along the way. And what it's done for me, 18 years in the business, it's allowed me to understand myself a lot more and who I want to continue aligning with. And I think that's what a win-win situation is in business. And unfortunately, not everybody wants to win-win. A lot of people want to win, but not, and for me, business is about, when you've got a supplier that you deal with or a customer, it doesn't matter if it's business to business or business to customer, it's got to always be a win-win situation. And that's what I've always got in mind. And is it ethical? Is it sustainable? Is what I'm doing, or is what I'm about to do going to further develop my I guess my heart for ethical and sustainability? I always have those questions in mind. Is this ethical? Is this sustainable? So
I love that.
Yeah.
That's a really nice way to be. And a few weeks ago when we first had a good chat, you told me a nice story about getting Aria restaurant on board as one of your clients.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you tell me this story again?
Oh yeah, that was actually a highlight. That was a really good moment. I have to say that was a really great moment, and that was back in the early days of when I started Numero Uno Coffee. So I decided to do a bit of a marketing thing, and I thought, who are the top? I picked the top 20 restaurants at the time back then, and I put these beautiful little invitation cards together, and it was an invitation to come to our tiny little garage. We were still in a tiny garage in Surrey Hills, operating from it was literally a tiny garage. And I thought, I was very confident with what we were doing, and I knew our product, was a really good, high quality product. And I thought, I'm going to pick the 20 top restaurants, and one of them was Aria restaurant, Matt Moran's restaurant. And I followed everyone up who I sent the invitation cards to, and they were really beautiful invitation cards. And I got his I think it was a marketing manager anyway, he was managing all of that side for Matt Moran. And he said, yep, we're coming. So I organised the time, and they came, and Matt Moran if you know him, he doesn't have a lot of time. And I think back then he was just starting to get into that whole celebrity chef thing.
Sure.
And I'll never forget the two of them, him and Peter, walked into my little garage, and he goes, he just looked at me and goes, how did we get here anyway? How did you get me? And I said, oh Matt, I sent you an invitation card, or went to your marketing team, obviously. He goes, oh, okay, all right. He goes, look, I don't have a lot of time. And he was so, I don't have a lot of time. And I said, yep, okay, I get it. And he looked around, and we had some beautiful, cute little machines and things like that. And he goes, look, okay, I'm not here to muck around. Make me a flat white. It was a flat white. And I looked over, and I said to my partner back then, I said, oh, can you make him a flat white? And I said, make it good, I mean, it's always good.
Of course.
So he makes him a flat white, and I serve it to him, and he drinks it, and he looks at me and he goes, oh wow, that's really nice. And he said, right, now make me an espresso. And made him an espresso. He knocked it back, and I don't know if I should say this on camera, but
Go ahead.
He knocked it back, put it on the bench, and he goes, that was an effing good coffee. I can't say it, sorry. And I said, oh, thank you. And he goes, right, when can we start?
Amazing.
It was like that. It was literally like that. So that was the
Wow.
beginning of my time with Aria restaurant, and it was great working with their team. We did all the training, and from that I actually gained new customers, because those customers would go to Aria restaurant and would ask, where does this coffee come from?
Yeah, right.
So we developed a blend that was called the Aria blend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So what makes an award-winning blend?
Oh, a lot of things. I guess, first of all, the coffee itself, where it comes from.
Yeah.
That it's ethically and sustainably sourced. And obviously, there's a array of components of flavour and body and acidity and aftertaste, and then it's the way you roast it. Everybody has a different roast profile. Numero Uno has their own particular roast profile, and we've developed that over the time as well, with the changing times and what the demand is from customers. So I think definitely first and foremost is the coffee itself, and then the way you roast it, and also the way you package it. I think packaging is really important, and also how you serve it.
Sure. And you mentioned roasting. We're here actually today in your roasting house. So what goes on downstairs?
Downstairs is our production area. So that's where all the noise and all the fun happens down there. Lots of, that's where we store all our green beans. I'm not sure if you got to see all the green beans.
Yeah.
If Antonia showed you that today.
We saw some of it.
Yeah. So I've got probably about, how many different single origins? So a blend, as you know, is made up of different single origins. Did you know that?
No, tell me more.
So in a blend, you might have a Guatemalan, in this particular blend, I've got a Guatemalan, and I've got a Colombian, and I've got a Brazil.
Okay.
And they're all from smallholder coffee farmers. So, and then, so downstairs I think I've got about 8 different single origins at the moment in the warehouse. And and up here we do all the training. It's our office, it's where we think, it's our little think tank. But the production area is where it really happens. It's all about timing, it's all about, it's all about hearing, your first crack. I don't know if the boys showed you any of that. No?
We'll have to go check that out.
Yeah, I don't know if he's finished roasting. I think he might have finished roasting.
Oh, that's okay.
Yeah.
We'll come back. I'm happy to come back anytime.
Please, you're welcome to. There's, and we also do all the packing, and then that's, we've got some customers that are outside of Sydney, so you know, we've got our courier deliveries that happen twice a week, and the rest we get in our van and we, you know, deliver locally.
Sure. And do you currently distribute Australia-wide?
Currently, yes. More so, predominantly more so in New South Wales now, especially since COVID.
Sure.
Yeah, I had quite a few in Melbourne, but unfortunately, that's it's sort of at a bit of a standstill at the moment, as you know. Poor Melbourne, or poor Victoria, I should say.
Yes.
Yeah, they're going through.
Yeah, that makes things tough with the borders, of course.
Yeah, but I deliver Australia-wide. Yeah,
Sure.
I've got customers that are buying coffee from me in Perth, in South Australia, Queensland, and a lot of these are in regional areas. Yeah.
Wow, it's nice to be discovered in small towns, isn't it?
Yeah.
And Sam mentioned to me, which I found interesting, because he's doing the roasting downstairs, bundling up into bags or into containers.
Yeah.
And I said, how long does it take from getting out of the roaster to being served in a restaurant? And he said 1 week. I was thinking, surely you want it in your machine that day for the freshest, but he actually mentioned it needs to sit for a week, and that's the best period. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah. Oh, good. He's answered correctly.
Yeah.
Look, coffee is made up of so many different. Once you've roasted coffee, we do pack it into the bags immediately, and we've got what you call a one-way valve. So, and this one-way valve acts as a deterrent from any sort of outside air coming into the bag. But in the meantime, it actually releases volatiles because it's still what's the word? It's still releasing. It's having a chemical reaction basically in the bag because it's so fresh.
Yes.
So this is why you've got to let it sit for at least. Some people want it earlier, so we cater to that if they want it fresher. But from 7 days onwards. Because as time goes, there is like a curve, and that's at about 14 days. So from 10 to 14 days is probably the best window to get the most out of your coffee. Everything just harmonises from 10 to 14 days. We say from the moment it's roasted, it has 3 weeks shelf life. But of course you can keep drinking it after that, but any time after 3 weeks, it starts to, your body starts to thin out, you're losing flavour, it changes, it really starts to, that nice curve starts to...
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And do you recommend people put it in the freezer at that point?
Or
is that
not really
helping?
Look, I mean, it depends where they are. It's funny, many years ago they used to say put in the freezer, then it went through, no, you don't need a freezer, just put it in a cool, dark, dry place. So there's 3 elements you have to keep away from fresh coffee, and that's air, because once oxidization hits the coffee, it just completely changes it. So air, moisture, and heat.
Yeah.
So I just say to people, just, if you want to take it out of the bag, you can, make sure you put it in an airtight container, away from heat, and away from moisture.
Sure.
But look, you can put it in the freezer. There are companies now that are saying, yep, frozen coffee's fine. But if you buy on a regular basis, you don't need to do that. And it does, I feel that it does, if you put something in the freezer and you take it out, it's never going to be the same as what you put it in.
Yeah,
that's,
sure.
I think that's a given with anything that we freeze, right?
Yeah.
But it's not to say that you can't use it. Yeah, you can. Yeah, I've had coffee that's been frozen. But no, I would say just try and buy it on a regular basis from your local cafe or roaster, and store it in a cool, dry, dark place.
Yeah. Now I have a question for you. Like a wine sommelier, might be able to taste the wine from the side of the hill in Barossa Valley on a sunny day. How's your tasting skills. Can you tell a coffee from Brazil versus Guatemala versus, Papua New Guinea?
Look,
can anyone do that?
Yes, I would say 90% of the time I get it right.
All right, wow.
And
Yes, she does.
Been approved over here.
I wouldn't say 100. Look, I'm known to be wrong, but I do most of the time. I've been tasting coffees for 18 years, and
when your stuff.
You do, but now with some of the new processing methods, and may I add, one of them is very similar to how they ferment wine, and it's called carbonic maceration. And so you're going to get flavour profiles that are like, as I said, like, oh, that's an Ethiopian, because carbonic maceration can introduce more fruity type flavours in it.
Okay.
Even dry, my favourites are the dry naturals. I love those sort of coffees. But most of the time, yes. I won't say all the time.
Yeah, impressive party trick. I like it.
I did learn early on that I had a pretty good palate.
Yeah.
And I think it's from my upbringing, because we were not allowed to eat any junk food growing up. In my Italian household, my mum and dad grew everything in this backyard in suburbia Melbourne, right?
Yeah.
And we had nowhere to play, because dad
The veggie garden.
He had the whole veggie garden, fruit and vegetables, everything. We would come home to this amazing aroma every day. And sometimes Dad's cooking was better than Mum's. But Mum was an amazing cook. But Dad sometimes, he just cooked. He would make this incredible nuance. He would always put this, I don't know, it was just something he did. Particularly with stews. He loved making stews. Yeah. So I think from a very early age, when you're introduced to so many different flavours and wine, we were made to drink a quarter of a glass of wine every night, and that was Dad's wine that he made.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so we used to make our own wine, our own salami, our own tomato sauce every year. We hated it.
Oh,
now looking back, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
But we'd make everything ourselves. Yeah. And I was telling somebody the other day that even the local priest, who was Irish, he'd come on a Friday night, and the first thing he'd ask for was, "Where's the wine?" So I know Dad's wine was pretty good, but we were brought up to eat everything and anything, but not bought from a shop. So we we made everything ourselves. So yes, you pick up, and I think I locked in a lot of memories of flavours and aromas from my childhood. And I think that's why coffee is really intriguing for me, because, coffee comes from so many different countries and different temperatures and different, like I said, microclimates and microregions and soils. So it's.
If only we could go back to the day of the veggie patch and cooking straight from your garden.
I know. I've got a confession to make.
That's the goal. Yeah.
I had this moment a month ago where I really wanted to feel like I was grounded with soil. So I went and got these pots from Bunnings, and I went and got all these seeds, and I got some little plants of parsley and all these herbs, and it was really fun. It was fun doing it. But 3 weeks later, I'm thinking, nothing's really grown. What's going on here? The soil wasn't right. I don't know. I managed to get a little bit out of my lettuce and a little bit out of my parsley, and the rest were like,
I think we've tried the same a few times.
I think it's because we don't have time these days. But it saddened me to think, oh wow, that I don't grow anything anymore.
One day we'll get back to it.
Yeah.
So what's next for you? Where do you want to take this?
That's a really great question. I think with this whole COVID situation, it really, I've always got in the back of my mind, what's next? Yeah. I think a big part of this business is going to be working more with women in coffee. I really want to go down that line, and sourcing not just ethical and sustainable coffees, but varietals that are non-GMO.
Oh,
because
amazing.
with the climate change, coffee farmers are experiencing some really devastating effects at the farm. You know, with more diseases and more pests, more it's, you know, there's the coffee leaf rust, and there's all these different insects now that are just affecting the coffee plant. So there's an incredible research and development organisation called World Coffee Research Organisation, and they're looking at different species to to propagate naturally, not in a lab, right? This is really important, because there's a lot of research and development going on now with creating hybrids that are created in labs out of stem cells. And I've tried those coffees, and to me, bring me back to my traditional varietals, which is so important.
Yes.
So, because they can manipulate anything. When you're doing something in a lab, you can manipulate the structure of anything.
But they have a very different nutrient value, don't they?
100%. Or they can add and subtract. They can make it, taste like this, and they can put less caffeine, more caffeine. To me, it's not natural what they're, where they're going. So I'm, funnily enough, I was on the phone this morning texting a Brazil coffee farmer who's doing some amazing things with a geisha varietal, which you won't know, but it's a varietal that's traditionally grown. It's an heirloom from Ethiopia.
Okay.
And so that's one of the areas that I'm going to be focusing on, sourcing coffees that are non-GMO and grown by women, and because women have a tendency. Women are now becoming more and more recognised within the coffee industry globally, because of some of these amazing cooperatives that are being formed by women, for women, because women have always been in the industry for years and years and years, but were never recognised, weren't paid, were not allowed to own land. There's so much injustice and inequality happening at the farm level.
Yeah.
And so this is my passion to drive, to drive awareness and work with those particular coffee farmers that are doing the right thing for and obviously not just for women, because when women are natural nurturers, they also don't squander the money when they get paid. When the money, sorry to say this, but when the money lands in some of the males' hands, it just goes on things not for the children or not for the community. So women tend to help enhance their own community. So that's where I'm going with that also. Also, we're going down the path of automating the business a bit more, not to take away from the customer, that personalised service at all. It's probably to streamline things a lot better, so I can be free to spend more time with customers.
Amazing.
So we're going down that path of automating some of the business, and I'm looking at adding new products that I think will be really necessary, and there already is a demand right now with what's happening with the situation with COVID. I don't know, and then just be happy, keep drinking more coffee, spread the word more about coffee, and connect more with people that are going to align with Numero Uno's values.
Yeah.
And that's about it really at the moment. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I align with your values.
Thank you.
And I'm really honoured to have met you. I'm very inspired by the great things you're doing. So thank you for your time today. It's been really a pleasure to meet you and meet your team and see the operations here at Numero Uno.
Thanks.
And I'm really excited to see where it goes next. I mean, you're doing amazing things already, but
thank you.
I'm really excited to hear about your the non-GMO and working with women overseas. So thank you, Gina. I really enjoyed your coffee today. Be sure to follow Numero Uno on Facebook and Instagram, and check out their profile on fairfoodie.com.au. Thanks, Gina.
Thanks, Lisa.
If you've enjoyed this podcast, please be sure to like and share it and smash the subscribe button. And if you are an Australian farmer, producer or small business owner who would like to have a drink with Lisa, get in touch.